A3. The session 5 is Forensic Investigations in Cybersecurity. The name of the expert, Dr. Sridevi R. I'm introducing the expert, ma'am, Dr. Sridevi. Madam is currently working as a professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department, Directorate of Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Startups. She is a dedicated and passionate professional in computer science and engineering with 24 years of experience in teaching, 14 years of research, and 11 years of administrative experience. Coming to the education qualifications, Madam has received the BE degree from University of Madras, Chennai. She received MTech CSIT from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. She received PhD degree from JNTU University, Hyderabad in 2010. She has worked in various capacities throughout her career. I would like to highlight that she worked as additional controller of examinations, JNTH University, Hyderabad, head of the Department of CSE, JNTH College of Engineering, Science and Technology, Hyderabad, and coordinator, Center of Excellence in Cybersecurity, JNTH, Hyderabad, and director, now Directorate of Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Startups. She has guided 7 PhD scholars and currently guiding 8 scholars. Madam has many national and international journals, around 80 journals, international and national journals, and she involved in MOUs, various MOUs. Madam is the member of Board of Studies for JNTU, TEH, JNTH University, JNTH Autonomous Colleges, and Usmania University. Madam's areas of research: information security, cryptography, steganography, cyber security, digital forensics, computer networks. She received the prestigious Faculty Award, Artificial Intelligence, Medical Engineering Research Society. And she received Best Paper Award from Pentagon Research Center, Hyderabad, India. So, in spite of hectic schedule, as per our invitation, Madam approved, and with a kind heartedness, so she approved and for our FDP. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. You can proceed, ma'am.
Very good evening, respected principal of the college and Miss Sandhya and all other faculty members over here and participants also faculty, I hope, right, Sandhya? All are, it's a
Yes,
faculty
all
development
are
program.
faculty.
Almost 28, almost like 25 participants are here right now on board. So, very good evening. It's a wonderful opportunity to me to interact with you all in this workshop, actually. So, the cyber forensics I would like to talk about in this at LFDP. And Sandhya, is my voice is okay?
Okay, ma'am. It is clear.
Yes, ma'am. You are
Shall I share my slides?
You can share, ma'am.
You can, madam. We gave hope. Presenter, madam.
Yeah, I'm doing. Just a minute. Uh, Sanjay, can you see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Cyber
Yeah, madam.
forensics and
Showing.
investigation.
Investigations.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
It's okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, my topic, I would like to touch upon some of the fundamental aspects of cyber forensics and investigation, where actually this is a fascinating world of the digital evidence where we are talking about. Before going into this particular topic, which I want to know about, how many of you know, what is forensics? I hope you have some idea, because this particular this particular workshop was started some 2 days before. I hope so. How many of you know about the cyber forensics? Just I'm checking here. How many can you can respond in chat box also? Participants, you are free to respond in the chat box. Please, you can write your messages. I hope nothing is written over here. Sanjay, can you help me out? So something is given in a chat box.
Okay. I'll read out.
Yeah. So what is forensics? Maybe because this particular workshop, I have seen the topics which it was covered. I hope a little fundamentals been already covered here in this the cyber forensics. See, all of you know about the forensics, the word forensics, all of you know, right? So just are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Slides, can you be able to see this?
Slide show.
Oh, yeah. So here, the forensics, maybe all of you know, we are talking right now in a cyber forensics and investigations, but let us consider the forensics is a word, which is a very oldest word. Before the invention of a cyber forensics, there are some, actually the forensic field is there. It is something like, the blood samples, DNA forensics, or otherwise some sort of fingerprint forensics, hair forensics, something like this. We know very well, right? So these are called evidences to say this particular activity is a criminal activity, and who is the criminal in this particular scenario. That is what, if you want to know about this particular scenario, we require a topic, we require a subject called forensics. But what we are talking about right now is cyber forensics and also investigations. What is cyber forensics? Everyone knows that the cyber is a entire cyberspace, we call here in short as a cyber. So here on a cyberspace, there are lot many criminal activities, or the cyber crimes has been happening, right? All of you know, it is something like the cyber bullying, cyber stalking, or otherwise financial crimes. Likewise, you have lot many cyber crimes are happening in more like minute to minute, or you can say the from every second to second. So here, how to find out? So what you can understand is there are two subjects, or otherwise you can say the subject is divided into two types. One is called cyber security and the second is called cyber forensics. Cyber security is a branch of computer science which is a proactive method of the controlling or regulating the cyber attacks is called cyber security. Cyber forensics is reactive. Once it was already happened, how to find out the root cause and who are the criminals, what is the criminal activity is being done. You want to know about that? We talk a word called cyber forensics. Hope everyone is understanding, right? Sandhya, are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. They are keeping in chat box also.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please check this chat box if at all anything is there. I'm going with a slideshow. Please help me. So this is what the list of contents which I want to actually make you familiar, like what is the background of this cyber forensics, why we have to go with the cyber forensics or digital forensics. We use the words like cyber forensics and digital forensics, more or less both are same. See, this digital forensics means the forensic process which is incorporated with the digital media or digital devices is called a digital forensics. And at the same time, on cyberspace, including cyberspace, once you are doing that is called as a cyber forensics. So here, which I am going to talk about, what is the background of the cyber forensics and what is digital forensic science, what is cyber forensics, what is digital evidence, what are the cyber forensic principles, digital forensic basic model, chain of custody means what are the various disk copying techniques, what are the various types of forensic imaging. So these are the particular words which we'll be knowing only with the forensic science, where you will not be this imaging, copying, or otherwise some words like chain of custody. These are the, actually you can say these are called police department words or law words, which it is not actually into the computer science, but basically, but you want to actually, as per the context we need to work, we should understand all these terminologies. So the next is called need for digital forensics, benefits and applications. Along with I want to cover some more issues. So this is what I would like to talk about today's evening. And what is the background of this? Cyber activity has become a significant portion of everyday life of general public. See, how many can anyone talk about one cyber crime which you have seen very recently in in news channels? Maybe every day you will be seeing so many, but there are so many political sensitive cases also you are seeing, right? Can you point out any case which you have seen which is related to cyber crimes or forensics? You can type in the chat box. Anybody is responding, Sandhya?
Ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. There are other.
Yeah. Can you read about that?
Mails, ma'am.
Yeah. Generally, if you see in a news channels, there are so many cases like, something like phone tapping cases. Likewise, you can see lot many things. See, and the other very important thing is that it is cyber. Now the cyber forensics is not limited to cyber crimes, but actually it is having a prominent significance in physical crimes. Means that suppose some murder was done, some homicide case is done. So in that case, what are the evidences now the police department is taking care of is that something like everywhere you can see the mobile. Mobile is a digital device again, and they are using WhatsApp messages, they are using mails, they are using some social medias. So all that will be coming under again cyber security. So that is the reason why now the police department is working too much on the cyber security. And there are some cyber forensic labs also is there with the government agencies. In Hyderabad, we have Telangana State Forensic Science Laboratory, which is working under the Telangana State Police Department. And also we have Central Forensic Science Laboratory, which is working under Ministry of Home Affairs. So these are the agencies which are actually taking care of all the cases. Something like, there's some, this one, what do you say, this phone tapping case and other political sensitive. Not only that, most of the cases will be going to that, the evidences, everything they are collecting, they are investigating, they are analyzing, they are giving a conclusions out of that. So that is the reason why the prominence of the cyber security is not only associated with the cyber world or digital world, it is associated with the ordinary cases also. Some small petty cases also there. You can see there is a evidence called mobile phone. So definitely it has to go to the forensic labs. So that is the requirement of a cyber security or cyber forensics nowadays. The scope of cyber, second point is the scope of cyber investigation, cyber crime investigation has also been broadened. That is what I'm telling. Why the scope of cyber crime investigation is been broadened is that because there are so many cases, there is an involvement of digital devices. Computers and networks have been widely used for enterprise information processing. We are working on a system. We are actually shopping from car to needle, everything online. So here there is a chance of more and more cyber crimes or financial frauds may happen. And e-commerce, such as business to business, business to customer, customer to customer, has become a new business model. And more facilities are directly controlled by the computers. As the society has become more and more dependent on a computer and computer networks, the computers and the networks may become targets of crime activities such as thief, cyber vandalism, cyber espionage, or even with the cyber war. What are these? Cyber thief means that something you are doing it. I mean, something like a hacker is, catching without any permissions. They are catching some information is called cyber thief. And vandalism is like, it is something like, disturbing or otherwise, disturbing the information systems data or something like espionage. It is something like a spying. And cyber war, it may also happen. So these are the various cases. It is not limited to this. There are so many other cyber crimes that are associated with the computers and networks. These are the targets of the cyber crimes, where actually there is a obviously, how much the technology is increasing, that much we need to actually multifold the crimes are also increasing. The next thing is that 85% of business and government agencies detected security breaches. In something like, it is a, as per the source, if you see this, it is something like in the year of February 2000, as per this source, it is FBI estimates US losses at up to $10 billion a year. But actually in early 1990s, the threats to information systems are 80% are internal threats, 20% are external. But now what happens is there is an equal split between internal and external threats as per the study of this particular source. So this is how the background of cyber crimes are there. There is a need of a cyber forensics. Okay. And now the next thing is, I would like to talk about the digital forensic science. What is digital forensic science? Forensic science means it is collecting the evidence and analyzing. This evidence may be a blood samples, evidence may be a DNA, or it may be anything else, toxics, something like this is called forensic science. But actually, if you see, we are talking about digital forensics, means that the evidence is generated from the digital sources, then only we call that's a digital forensic science. So that is this, as per the source, Digital Forensic Research Workshop, this is one of the very major definition of digital forensic science, the use of scientifically derived and proven methods towards the preservation, collection, validation, identification, analysis, interpretation, documentation, and presentation of the digital evidence derived from the digital sources for the purpose of facilitating or furthering the reconstruction of events found to be criminal or helping to anticipate unauthorized actions shown to be destructive to planned operations. Means that if you see the red colored words here, what I am talking about? I'm talking about it's a scientific method towards what? Preservation. How to preserve the digital evidence. How to collect the digital evidence. How to validate the digital evidence. How to identify the digital evidence. How to analyze the digital evidence. How to interpret it. How to document it. How to present it. So likewise, these are the various phases of actually forensic science investigation, forensic investigation. So what is digital evidence? It is nothing but a piece of information which is collected from any digital resources in order to prove whether this particular activity is a criminal activity or not. Did you understand? Sandhya, it is muted. All the participants are muted, or
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We understand.
Okay, please. Otherwise, I'm seeing only the screen. I don't understand whether you are there online or not. Please. If you have anything, doubts or anything else, please, you can stop me. No problem. Just because this is an entirely new subject, that's what I'm very much bothered whether you're following or not. Being a computer science engineers, we are not much known about this. This is something different, and it is something like law related. So how to preserve the digital evidence, how to collect it, means that some cyber crime was done. One particular cyber crime was done in one particular industry. Let us consider. Once it is notified, what happens is this forensic team people, they are called immediate response team people. They go there. First, what they do is they seize that entire area. They'll not allow any others to touch that area, to touch that computer, or to touch that environment. Nothing. So that is the first action will be taken up. And next is how to preserve, means that there is a computer which is an open state where you can find some set of applications are running. From there, the cyber crime was originated, if you think. So immediately what they have to take, that is they should not switch off the system. What they have to do is that they have to take the evidences in a live stage. That is called live forensics. Means that as it is, what is there, they have to collect it. So then next is preserve it. How to preserve it? Suppose whatever the digital, see entirely what type of information, digital evidence you are collecting is in the form of, after all, finally in the form of a zeros and ones. How to preserve it is a matters, because an entire content, suppose say for example some 10 kb or 10 MB of a digital evidence is collected out of this particular crime scene. So among this 10 kb or 10 MB, what I'm saying, for example, I'm telling 10 MB, one single bit is corrupted, that evidence is invalid. Remember, your evidence must be 100%. It should be in a correct form. It should not be disturbed. So that the preserving the digital evidence is very, very important. And the next is validate. How to validate it? Okay, means that whether it is this particular evidence is correctly correct or not. And the next is identification. Suppose if you go to the crime scene, you will be seeing some 10 computers. 10 computers are with a 10 different screens where you can see lot many applications with each and every computer. Where what you can understand is that by seeing that, you will be taking up, as a forensic analyst, you will be taking up each and everything, whatever the piece of information you are getting. You know, remember, the piece of digital, it is not only a digital evidence, even the paper information, something is written on the paper, somebody is keeping on this table while they are working on the computer, that paper also they'll be collecting and they are taking. And sometimes the people is having a habit of writing passwords or anything important on the tables, that also the pictures also has to be taken up. And sometimes the pen drives, mouse and whatnot, if you see even the dustbins also, the cyber forensic people will be collecting and taking up, because some of the papers may be available in that also, they throw in a crash also. So this is how actually what happens is, how to identify. You will be collecting lot many evidences, but identifying the proper evidence regarding the case is very important, or otherwise what happens is the time to take the investigation becomes more and much, and at the same time whenever the time is increasing, the cost of this process is also increasing. So this is not an efficient way of forensic investigation. How to analyze? Means that analysis is very important. What are the data is available, what is there in a Slack space, what is there in an unallocated space, what are there in a cookies, what are there in a log files. You should analyze each and every part of information which is required and interpret it. You should interpret, yes, this is the sequence of evidences are collected, this is the sequence of time chart with which the evidence is actually you need to reframe it, that need to be documented. And the other thing is that documentation is not only a last but phase, actually the documentation has to happen from the moment one. So the documentation it will be something like this. Whenever the people are entering into the room of a crime scene, just immediately they write the case number, everything, and they entered into the crime scene at 9:21 a.m. so and so date. Who are the actually team of members are entered, everything is recorded. So that is called documentation. And how to presenting, see, you're doing lot many things. You are collecting the evidence, you are categorizing the evidence, you are identifying the evidence, you are analyzing the evidence, you are interpreting the case, and you are documenting. But the way you are presenting to the court of law is very important. What for we are doing all these things? We need to present into the court of law. The court of law should actually accept your evidence. Acceptance of evidence is very, very difficult. It should not have any actually ambiguity. It is not something like 99.9%. The perfectness of a digital evidence must be 100%. There is no doubt. Even 0.01% error also will not be tolerated to take into consideration in a court of law. So that is the reason why, if you see these are the phases what we are doing of the digital evidence derived from the digital sources. For the purpose, what for we are doing all that? Facilitating or furthering the reconstruction of events found to be criminal. And also the very important point of thing is that, suppose the physical crimes, how they are happening, some of you might be knowing this word, scene reconstruction. The same way, here also on digital evidence, with digital evidence, you need to reconstruct the events, how actually this cyber crime was happened. It has to be shown into the court of law. Otherwise, your evidence will not be actually taken into consideration, and even in spite of that you will be getting lot many cross examinations from the other side, lawyers and all, so are helping to anticipate unauthorized actions shown to be disturbed to planned operations. So this is what the entire thing is called digital forensic science. Hope you understand, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is that speaking? May I
Yes,
know?
Uh,
Yeah, you can tell your name, no problem. Can I
ma'am,
can
my
I
name is
go to
Saurabh.
the,
Saurabh
yeah,
Srivastava.
can I go to the next slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is another picture of where actually what is that the digital forensic research is covering is that law enforcement, no doubt, courts, suppose if at all any digital crimes are there, courts are relying on digital forensic research, information warfare, military applications are actually one of the thing, and business and industry, critical infrastructure protection is also very important thing. So these are the various parts of a, end users, the digital forensic science is being used. So there is another simple definitions for the cyber forensics. It's nothing but the scientific examination and analysis of digital evidence. This and that are more or less same, and the scientific examination and analysis of digital evidence in such a way that the information can be used as evidence in a court of law. That is what I'm telling. Whatever the digital evidence you are taking, you have to show that digital evidence is in an acceptable form to the court of law, otherwise your investigation of no use. And the next is this is another very famous dictionary is talking about. American Heritage Dictionary defines forensics as a use of science and technology to investigate and to establish facts in criminal or civil courts of law. Forensics is the process of using scientific knowledge for collecting, analyzing, presenting evidence to the courts. Forensics deal primarily with the recovery and analysis of latent. So the forensic investigations can be in any field. It is not limited only to this. It may be a civil investigations, it may be a criminal, it may be administrative, it may be IPR. Intellectual property rights violation also will be coming under the cybercrime. So all these will be coming under the cybercrimes. So again, the cyber forensics based on the type of the digital evidence, it is actually divided into so many types. The one is called network forensics, means that the network forensics is not same as like a computer forensics. Means that in a computer forensics or storage media forensics, what we do is that we are actually looking after what is our hard disk, how the hard disk is partitioned, what are the allocated space, what are the unallocated space, and what are the deleted contents, and all that we are talking about in a computer forensics. But whereas in a network forensics, we are actually the place from where you are taking the evidence is something different, because the network, your computer is connected in a network. Once the computer is connected in a network, there is no need that all the entire stuff is available on your storage machine itself. This particular crime may be operated from somewhere, right? So you should have a strategy to find out from where you got this. Actually, for that you require network adapter cards information, you require some switches, routers, all that information is mandatory, and along with the log files and along with the network analysis, packet analyzers, and also sometimes if required you need to talk to the network providers, internet providers. From there also we'll be collecting the evidences. So what do you understand? See, the cyber forensics is a broad area where each and every case is not following the same thing, but the phases of investigation is similar, but actually from where you will be collecting the digital evidence is not same. For example, there you know very well that it's a computer forensics, it's not related to network forensics. In that case, you need not spare your time and cost for doing network element investigation. So likewise, this includes network forensics, small scale digital devices. It is something like your mobile phones, storage media, and code analysis. So these are the things which you can actually talk about the cyber forensics. Again, the same things. What are the cyber forensic activities? Means that the one is secure collection of computer data, identification of suspect data, examination of suspect data to determine details such as origin and content, the presentation of computer based information to court of law, and application of country's law to computer practice. Means that what is cyber forensics? The major activities is those are the phases, the similar thing, but actually the activities and the models which are more or less looks similar, but there is a procedure in this thing. There is a secure collection of computer data is nothing but seizing the evidence and identifying the suspected data. See, you have some gigabytes of data, so or gigabytes of data. You cannot take each and every piece of bit cannot be as a suspect data. You should identify. Identification of digital evidence is very, very important, logical, and very precious and skilled work. The examination of suspected data to determine details such as origin and contents. You need to examine what is the origin of this, what are the contents it is comprising of. The presentation of computer-based information to court of law, and the application of countries' laws to computer practice means that whatever I feel I should not do. Suppose without any reason I cannot go to somebody's like house and we cannot just take it. So for that we require some search warrants and all. So these are some country, each and every country is having some IT laws are incorporated. We should not cross that. Within the limitation of laws only we have to go through. And generally this is called 3 A's architecture. The cyber forensic process is entirely called as a 3 A's. One is acquire, authenticate, analyze. What is acquiring? The evidence without altering or damaging the original is called as a acquiring. See, you have something hard disk. In that from that particular hard disk you would like to take the want to take the original evidence. Means that you want to copy that evidence into secondary. So the very important thing which I want to tell you is that the evidence, the forensic analyst, as a thumb rule, the forensic analyst should not work on the original evidence. They have to copy that original evidence into secondary device and they have to work on the secondary device. Why? Because is that something has happened, the original, if they are working on original evidence, everything will be contaminated. Once it is contaminated, it's a digital data which is very sensitive, it cannot be decontaminated. That's the reason evidence without altering or damaging the original one, you should acquire that. And the next is authenticate the image. What is image here? Is it that we are taking picture or GIF files? No. What is image? Imaging means that, copying the entire system memory is copied into another disk. For example, you want to copy hard disk A into hard disk B, or otherwise drive to drive. Just you can open, select all, copy, paste. What happens? You will be getting only the contents which are actually available right now. That is not image. Image means what? Suppose if we are standing in front of a mirror and if we see ourselves, it shows the mirror image, right? Means that each and every detail, means that unallocated, slack space, everything deleted, everything has to be copied from one disk to another disk, which is not possible with simple operating systems. Either it may be Linux, or it may be a DOS, or it may be a Windows, or it may be Sun Solaris. Whatever it may be, the functionality is same, only the buttons are different. But you cannot just copy that content. If you just copy it, what happens is that you will be copying the contents when live contents available right now. But see, what is that forensic tools will be doing is that, suppose let us consider there is a mobile which is available in a crime place. So that mobile, suppose somebody is doing some crime with that mobile, by sending some WhatsApp messages, you come and so time and so date, and we do this, this is the activity, something like this. Somebody is actually sending a plan of action for a crime. Will they make that copies available in their mobile? No. Immediately in the next moment, the other person see that, they delete the content, right? So the same thing happens with any crime. So how to get back that contents? Means that there are forensic tools which are actually capable of taking it back once the contents are deleted. That is called forensic tools. How it is different from the ordinary copying? Means copying case, in copy just you can take the contents whatever is available, only the live content can be taken up. But actually unallocated space, slack space, that part you will not be seeing. See, unallocated space also will be holding some data, right? Is it right? Because Suppose, let us consider one file. You want to delete that file. Just you are clicking on the right, click on mouse right button. Then you will be finding your, what is that? Delete option. You're clicking on that. Delete means, do you think it is not available? You have to answer my question. Just if I simply delete it, is that file is not available for you?
It is available in the trash.
Yeah, it is available in a trash and you can actually take it back. But actually, if I use shift delete, or otherwise, even if I delete in a trash, can you get back that?
No.
No, you cannot do it with the ordinary operating system functionality, right? But actually, if you see the memory part of a computer memory, if you see that the content, for example, the file name is some forensics. It's a file name, forensics.dat. I have written something there and I have deleted, and again I deleted from the trash, otherwise I'm pressing shift delete. So then what happens? As an ordinary user, I cannot view that content, but actually if you see, only whenever you delete the file, the link between the file name and the file content is deleted, it is not erasing the contents on the memory. You remember what is the logic for getting the deleted data back by using a forensic tools is only because of this. Only because of this. It's not any magic. There is a logic. Why? Because is that once you delete any file, that particular memory is unallocated until it is available, until it allocates some otherwise until it overwrites, right? So this is the part is taken up. In that way, the forensic devices or forensic tools will be retrieving the data from the
Ma'am, can you
hard
please
disk.
repeat this procedure once again?
Yeah. See, for example, if you delete one file, the file name is forensics.dat or any file, .c file or .exe, whatever it may be. So if I delete it by the delete option, you will be getting that in a recycle bin and you can make that available back, right? And if you delete in a recycle bin or otherwise in a trash, then is there any possibility of getting that data out? You will not be having, right? Do you have this possibility
Yes,
of getting once if you delete in recycle bin?
No.
No. Generally with ordinary operating system, it is not possible. But whenever once you delete, even in a recycle bin, it doesn't mean that the memory is not erased. Memory is not erased. The content, file content is available. Only the pointer which is pointing to this file name, to this particular memory is deleted. It is deleting the pointer. Means that before and all, forensics.dat is a file name which is pointing to some location in a memory, right? So that pointer is deleted once you delete it. It is not deleting the contents in the memory. Is it clear for you?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not deleted from the memory. The contents are available. Say, for example, 2000 location where the forensics.dat is there. But actually, whenever I represent forensics.dat, so it is moving to 2000 and it starts reading from that location these contents. But actually, whenever I delete it, so forensic.dat with 2000, that particular linkage is deleted. It is not deleting the content what is available in a forensics.dat. So these particular contents which are deleted also will be able to get back by using forensic tools. So for which we have two different types of tools are there. For example, you want to read the contents of hard disk, including the allocated spaces, including the slack spaces, everything. You have hard disk forensic tools, something like FTK tool, Falcon tool, Tabula. These are the various tools which are available in forensic labs. Generally, they use for it. For example, mobile is there. You are typing something on a mobile and WhatsApp and you are deleting. So that also is available in a mobile. So that can be retrieved back by using mobile forensics tools. That is called UFED for PC. That is one of the mobile, very famous mobile forensic tool. I'll show you what are the names of the tools and all in later cases. Just for understanding, I'm telling. So likewise, if you want any cloud data, you want to get it. So cloud forensic tools are different. So you should understand well each and every hard disk architecture, the content, or otherwise the organization, memory organization of hard disk is different from the memory organization of a mobile device, everything. So depending on these dependencies of the operating systems, each and every device is having a different types of tools are required. So that is where authenticate the image. Why I'm going all these things is authenticate the, what is image is nothing but the content, nothing but the content, digital evidence. So why to authenticate? Why to authenticate means, see, I have copied hard disk A, that is the original evidence. I copied into hard disk B, which is a duplicate one, because I want to work for forensic investigation on B, not on A, because I don't want to disturb the original evidence. But at the same time in court, the other side lawyer or judge may question, how come you're not working on A, you're working on B, but actually the original evidence is A, it is not B. How can you prove that these two are same? Yes or not? These are the legal questions. So for that, there is a FTK tool is there. In that tool, we have authentication process. What it is doing is, they are taking the disk hash. The complete disk hash is being taken. Once it is copied, the disk hash of hard disk B is also taken. So in a court of law, we have to show these two hash values. This disk hash and this disk hash both are same. Hence, I worked on the similar. I worked not on the copied image. I worked on the image of a digital evidence. Did you understand? That's called authenticating the image. Is it clear to you?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Doubt, ma'am.
Yes,
So
please.
whatever is deleting from our system, if it is contain that tool, then only can we recover, or without using the tool, means that tool is not installed in our system, can we able to recover that?
You cannot. No, that's what I'm telling. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. That is where actually the forensic labs are working, no? The forensic tools are very expensive tools. See, for example, Falcon, FTK tools, it will be in the cost, like it is costing around 1 to 2 crores.
Okay.
Each tool. And also, why we procure and we keep all these tools with us? We are not working for that. That is their profession. They're keeping. But actually, for us, as that's what I'm telling, within the limitations of operating systems, you cannot delete. Once it is completely deleted from your trash, you cannot get it back entirely until unless you have some tools like this, forensic tools. Is it clear?
Ma'am, something I have to ask.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, there are some tools available on the net, like on-track easy recovery or recovering tools. If you suppose you are formatting your hard disk, and after that the 80% or 90% data can be recovered, then what are those tools? Those are forensic.
Yeah.
I can understand that those are not the forensic tools, but they are recovering the thing.
Yes. So, there is a difference.
You
are actually the forensic. What I'm saying, forensic is for what? To prove this particular digital evidence is a approved evidence to be submitted in the court. For example, whatever the tools you are spelling out, once you recover, you will not be getting 100% of data. You will not be getting a deleted data. You will be getting a data, whatever is available till now, you will be having whatever you have, that you are getting it. And also these tools are having some certain certifications. Otherwise, these certifications, without these certifications, this particular evidence, whatever you retrieved from these tools, is not acceptable by the court of law. What for we are working? We are working to prove this particular activity is a crime or not in the court of law. For submission of court of law, it is not possible. You are recovering,
Okay.
but it is that recovery is not for legal things, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Got it.
The next is analyze the data without modifying it. You should analyze it. What are the processes has been happened? What is the sequence of actions has been done? So in this case also, you should not modify the data. So the next is, this is a simple, just for understanding. There are so many types of securities: homeland security, information security, likewise all the securities, child pornography, all these things will be covered by the digital forensics. And if it is available on a cyberspace, it's called as a cyber forensics. So this is one of the interactive diagram, just make you to understand. And the next is, where do you apply digital forensics? Why we require? The one is called intellectual property theft, some IP. I have written some papers. Somebody has actually stolen my paper and just they have kept their names and they have done. Immediately, what I do it, I have to launch a complaint, strictly speaking. But most of the times we did not do, but actually we have to. So in this case also forensics will be acting. And the next is industrial espionage and employment disputes, fraud investigations, inappropriate use of internet and email in the workspaces, forgeries related, bankruptcy, issues concerned with regulatory, root cause analysis. So just for example, I'm telling all these things, but actually nowadays, if you see, the forensic labs are highly overloaded, overcrowded with so many cases, because even the small petty cases to tell the homicide case or murder case is also involved with the digital devices. So that is where all the cases will be coming to the digital forensic labs. And cyber threats for emails is, these are the various things which I think, I hope you cover, somebody covered this: email spoofing, phishing, all these are the, again, the various types of, most of the times the cyber threats or the cyber crimes are happening with these threats. And the next is almost the same thing, just for more and much understanding. But anyway, just I read it out. I hope you understand the same thing is there. Digital forensics is the use of scientifically derived and proven methods towards the preservation, collection, validation, identification, analysis, and all that, whatever we have seen previously, and facilitating and to anticipate the same, almost the same. That's what I told you. The technical aspect of an investigation is divided into several sub branches relating to the type of the digital devices involved: computer forensics, firewall forensics, database forensics, network forensics, forensic data analysis, and mobile device forensics. That is what I'm telling. Depending on the place from where you need to collect the digital evidence, the forensic process, what you need to do is differing. For example, computer forensics, you are talking about only your hard disk, you're talking about your only RAM, you are talking about your ROM, and you are talking about your cache memory. In that case, only the forensic tools which are related to computer forensics is sufficient. Firewall forensics, suppose some IP spoofing was done. In that case, I need to check about how the firewall is configured, whether it is properly configured or not, what is the timestamp at which the firewall configurations is being changed, who has changed this, who is the admin at the time. All that I need to check about in a firewall forensics. And database forensics, whenever we come with the databases, that tools are very different. Network forensics, likewise you have a mobile device forensics. So each and everything is like, each and every case is different depending on the availability of a digital evidence. And the next is, the typical forensic process encompasses the seizing, forensic imaging, and analysis of digital media and production of report into collected evidence. So just you can see on the screen examples of digital forensic devices. You can see so many, laptops, iPads, mobiles, whatnot, everything. What are the digital devices? So all these will be coming under the digital forensic devices. The next, we talk about we look after the digital evidence. What is digital evidence? A piece of information that supports a conclusion. So if you are unable to find the digital evidence, or you are unable to identify the digital evidence correctly, so your investigation definitely will not be correct, unless maybe very good very good care is been taken, very good process is been adopted, whatever it may be. Unless your evidence is not correctly located, there is of no use. Any data that is recorded or preserved on any medium in or by a computer system or other similar digital devices that can read or understand by a person or a computer system or other similar devices, that is called digital evidence. Means that some data you are recording from some computer medium. It may be a computer system, it may be a mobile phone, it may be an iPad, it may be a printer, or it may be anything else, a firewall, whatever it may be, that is called digital evidence. It includes display, printout, other output of the data. So what are the characters that digital evidence should have? Evidence means how it should be. When can you say this evidence is a proved evidence? One is admissibility. It has to be conformity. It has to have a conformity with the common law and legislative rules. I cannot say the digital evidence half of the 50% of the evidence is with me, 50% I know, I observed, this is correct. No, it is not admissible in a court of law. That is not digital evidence. And the second is authentic in linking data to specific individuals and events. I have taken one file, I'm showing it is a digital evidence, but I'm unable to link up the events, or I'm unable to reconstruct the scene while making a cyber crime. In that case, it is not digital evidence. And fragile, once it is easily altered, damaged, destroyed, it's of no use. It will not be tolerated. It cannot be taken into consideration for court of law. It should be accurate, believed, and is consistent. Means that accurate means if I see now, it should be the same thing. If I see after some time, it should be the same thing. It should not having any ambiguity. Complete with a full story of particular circumstances. That's what I'm telling. The digital evidence should have 100% complete evidence should be taken. Convincing to jury is very, very important point to have a probative value, subjective and practical test of presentation beyond doubt. See, once the evidence is gone to the court of law, definitely there is a cross examination is being done with the other side. You know, the forensic analysts, forensic scientists will be going to the courts also with this evidence by taking all these digital evidences, and they also will go and attend the court. The other side lawyer may put a question, something very logical, but they should have a very clear understanding to actually to stop them. That should be the convincing the jury is very important, because most of the times in jury, the technical terminology, say for example, hashing, MD5, all these things are not related to their words, but we should be able to make them to understand. That is the one of the very great challenges of a forensic science. And many courts have allowed the use of, these are the various types of digital evidences where the courts are also allowing. That is called emails, digital photographs, ATM transaction logs, word processing documents, instant message histories, files saved from accounting program, any data, and internet browser histories, databases, contents of computer memory, computer backups, computer printouts, GPS tracks, logs from hotels, electronic door locks. Logs from hotels, electronic door locks is also mixed matter. Digital video and audio files. It's not only limited to these digital evidences, but any digital evidence which is having a previous these characteristics is allowed in a court of law. And the types of digital evidence, there are two types. The name itself you can understand, persistent data and volatile data. Persistent means non-volatile, meaning that remains intact when the digital device is turned off. For example, you switch off your computer, hard disk data will not be erased, disk drive data will not be erased, removable storage will not be erased. At the same time, if you see the RAM content, it will be erased, right? That is not persistent data. Volatile data, which is data that would be lost if the digital device is turned off. Something like deleted files. Once the file is deleted. So in that case, once you switch off it, you will not be finding. Computer history, you will be losing. Computer's registry settings, you will be losing. Temporary files, you will be losing. Web browsing history, you will be losing. See, these are the data which is called volatile data. Okay. Location of evidence. Most of the times, what are the location from where you will be getting the evidence is internet history files, temporary internet files, slack or unallocated space. Means that I told you something file is deleted, but actually still it is existing, but the file name is, the link between the file name and file space is deleted. So in that case, you will be getting the data in an unallocated and slack space. Buddy list, personal chat rooms and news groups, club list, postings, settings, folder structure, file names, file storage dates, software hardware added, file sharing ability. Means that wherever you see, you will be getting all the location evidence is available. And the next is digital or electronic evidence is extremely volatile. Once the evidence is contaminated, it cannot be decontaminated. Why? Because it's a electronic evidence. Means that it is comprising of zeros and ones. Most of the times it is on either magnetic, the hard disk may be with the magnetic materials, and the material is also so sensitive. So that's the reason the evidence is so sensitive. Once it is contaminated, it cannot be decontaminated back. The court's acceptance is based on the best evidence principle. With the computer data, printouts and other output readable by sight and bitstream copies adhere to this principle. Means that it is not only a computer data, even the printout something is taken at the time of a crime scene, you will be getting some evidences with that. So how do you prove that this is the paper which you got it in a crime scene? Means this is possible with a documentation. You will be writing a document, and at the same time, each and every moment you'll be taking up the photographs, videographs along with the team members. That will be the evidence. Okay, what are the do's and don'ts? Minimize handling and corruption of original data. Sometimes what happens is that there is a corruption of data is obvious. Once you want to take out that particular the digital evidence device, definitely some corruption may happen. So in that case, okay, you can minimize the handling or corruption of original data, but in spite, you need to record it or you need to document it and sign by the team members what is the proper reason why it is corrupted. No problem. Account for any changes and keep detail, and at the same time, in a first case, at the same time, this has to be accepted by the jury. It is not, it is not our judgment. The judge also has to be convinced with the reason. And the next is account for any changes and keep detailed logs of your actions. That's what. Account for any changes. If you're doing something which is not like a formal way, you're doing some little change other than the formal method, in that case, keep detailed logs of your actions. Write in a book, document book. Comply with the 5 rules of evidence. What are the 5 rules of evidence? It should be, complete, authentic, admissible. Likewise, the rules, whatever we have told, the same thing. Do not exceed your knowledge. Whatever the knowledge you have, if you are able to handle this particular forensic device or the tool, you operate it. Something new tool is there, you don't know to operate, don't touch it. The protocols are like that in a forensic science. And follow your local security policy. Next, capture as accurate an image of a system as possible. Means that the image, that's the digital copy, evidence copy has to be copied as it is. Be prepared to testify. Means that you should test whether the original image and the secondary both are same. Ensure your actions are repeatable. That is very, very important. That's what scene reconstruction. I have done. Okay, it's everything over. Okay, relax. No, it is not like that. Suppose the judge or the other side lawyer is asking you to do it again and show me in front of court. So again, you need to repeat it. You should be prepared for this. Work fast. Proceed from volatile to persistent evidence. Always you start with the volatile evidence. That's what I'm telling. Live forensics means that whenever the system is on, if you are able to take much and more imaging thing, if you do, it would be good, because the volatile data, if you just switch off it, you cannot actually, this forensic people, these particular systems or digital devices, whatever they're collecting in a crime scene, they'll be bringing these tools, these devices to their labs. So if they want to take these devices to their labs, it is not possible all the times just keeping the system in an on position. They cannot do it. In that case, they need to switch off it. That's the reason they need to take out the printouts. They need to take out the photographs, videographs, everything. Start collecting from the volatile evidence to the persistent data. Don't shut down before collecting the evidence. Don't run any programs. Because it will be corrupting the, cookies, cache memory, RAM memory, all that it will be affected. So that's what you should not run anything. And these are the various cyber forensic principles. Is it okay? Shall I go ahead and keep on going?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There are 6 principles, because I have so many slides ahead. That's what I'm just running. If you have anything difficulty, you can please stop me. When dealing with digital evidence, all of the general forensic and procedural principles must be applied. See, it is not just like that what we are thinking, but actually the digital forensic analyst, they'll be following strict rules and regulations or principles to be adopted. They have a strict methodology. They have to follow that. And upon seizing the digital evidence, actions taken should not change that evidence. That is a very, very important rule. Once you take the digital evidence, if you are corrupting that case of no use. When it is necessary for a person to access original digital evidence, that person should be trained for the particular purpose. See, accessing the digital evidence from various, getting the digital evidence from hard disks is okay, but most of the times if you are working on a network, you don't know on which device and at which IP you will be getting your evidence. So this is something very skilled work. So once the trained person only has to be able to do it. All activity relating to seizure, accessing, storage, and transfer of digital evidence must be fully documented, preserved, and available for review. That's what I'm telling. Each and every minute detail you should not escape. You should write each and everything. An individual is responsible for all actions taken with respect to digital evidence while the digital evidence is in their possession. Any agency which is responsible for seizing, accessing, storing, and transferring digital evidence is responsible for compliance with these principles, because something has happened with the digital evidence, that particular agency is responsible for that. And these are the phases whatever we have seen previously, but just I'll go very fast. Process is identification, collection, bag and tag, preservation, something like this. What is identification? Is collecting. The first step is to identify the evidence, and potential containers of the evidence should be able to identify it. More difficult than it sounds. It may be a small scale devices, something like mobile phones, page, or something. Non-traditional storage media, multiple possible crime scenes. What happens? Non-traditional storage media means something like a white paper thrown in a trash, something written on a white paper and it is thrown in a trash, or otherwise something is written on the table or chair or somewhere. Those are all will be considered as a evidence. So that's what devices said. Identification is something like this. So if you see this, the very first one, see, I'm pointing with mouse. Is it visible, this mouse pointer to you?
Yes, ma'am.
If you see this, these are the devices which you can understand. It is, what is this? You should spell it out. What is this? What is this? First one. CPU, right?
CPU.
CPU, madam.
What
CPU
is
cabinet.
this? What is this?
Hard disk.
Is it hard disk?
CD player.
External CD drive.
It
CD
looks
drive.
like
Scanner.
CD player, or sometimes like scanners also will be. What is this?
Pen drive.
Pen drive.
But it doesn't look like, because that point that goes inside, you cannot identify. This is also pen drive. This is also pen drive. So this is also pen drive. So these things also to be able to identify. Likewise, the context of investigation is very important. Do not operate in a vacuum. Suppose the context, if it is a murder case, you should not think about like a small petty case. For small case, should not think like a very big case. You know, homicide cases. You know what is homicide case? Homicide. What is homicide? Should respond.
Within the organization.
No. It is something like, very cruel crime is called homicide. Something like murder, like that. That's called homicide. Do not overlook non-electronic sources of evidence, something like a manuals, papers, printouts, etc. Collection. How to collect the evidence? To minimize the contamination means that you should not lose your evidence. Collect or seize. Create the forensic image, live or static. Most of the times it's better to go with the live. Do you own the system? Yes or no? What does your policy say? So these are the various questions that while creating the forensic. So this is the place. Really, it is one of the cyber crime is been originated from this place. This is the picture from one particular source. So if you see this, once the forensic analyst go here, see, he has to catch out each and everything. He should not leave something, some papers are there here, some papers are there, and pens are there, maybe here some pen drives may be there, some slips are there. Likewise, each and everything to be taken into consideration, very important. And collection, see, while collecting, you should document it. What do you mean by document? Means, see, on the front panel you have to take the picture. What is the time and with how much speed it is running, all that it is showing. You have to take out the pictures of each and every module. And at the same time, if you see something is there on the table, account number something, cyberfund.xx is something they have written, passwords, everything, you have to take out the printouts. And see, this is the monitor on which this is there and these slips are hanging here. So you have to collect it. Take detailed photos and notes of computer or monitor. If the computer is on, take photos of what is displayed on the monitor. Do not alter the scene. Okay. And you have to, the very other important point is that backside cables, which cable is connected to which port, has to be taken, print out, photos. And the next is the rule of thumb. Make 2 copies. Don't work from the original. That's the rule of thumb. I told you, right? A file copy does not recover all data areas of the device for examination. Working from the duplicate image preserves the original evidence, prevents inadvertent alteration of work. And unknowingly, sometimes during examination, unknowingly it may alter. So that's the reason always better work on the duplicate. Allows recreation of duplicate image if necessary. And digital evidence can be duplicated with no degradation from copy to copy. This is not the case with most other forms of the evidences. So if you see this, all these things can be deduplicated. And the next is write blockers. What is write blocker? Suppose if you want to copy this particular hard disk A into hard disk B, while copying, sometimes this copy process may rewrite or may erase the contents in the source, where it should not happen. Only reading process has to be done. That's called write blocker. Write blocker will be coming as a software and hardware, but most of the forensic labs will be using hardware write blockers. So they're fixing write blockers in between the source hard disk and the this destination one. So how it is connected is, first the source hard disk connected to write blocker, from write blocker to forensic tool, and from forensic tool to destination device. That is how it will be connected. Hardware write blockers are becoming the industry standard. I told you, these are the industry standards and which are used for these particular purposes. And the next is forensic copies. Bit for bit copying captures all the data on a copied media, including hidden and residual data, something like a slack space, swap, residue, unused space, deleted files, etc. And often the smoking gun is found in the residual data. What is smoking gun is nothing but, here in meaning of smoking gun is the evidential information can be found in a residual data. Imaging from a disk or drive to a file is becoming normal. Multiple cases stored on the same media. See, for example, you have a very big hard disk, say not big, 1 TB hard disk, but your evidence is only 200 MB. In that case, you can have case by case, you can store on the secondary device, means that the duplicate hard disk can carry not only a single case data, it can have a multiple number of cases. It is referred with a case number. It is referred with a case number. Remember, avoid working for original. Use a write block when examining a copy. For example, authenticity, that's what I'm telling. Imaging, while doing imaging, you should authenticate and you should check for the integrity. How do we demonstrate that the image is true, unaltered copy of the original is? I told you, you have to take down the hashing, for which this particular tool, you need not write any hashing algorithm. If you see the tool, FTK tool, you will be finding there are keys, MD5, SHA-256, like that. Any one of that you can take an option, and then it will be giving a hash value of that particular disk. What is hash? Hashing is nothing but a small hash value, small MD5, for example, you take, it is giving 128-bit hash value for whatever may be the size of the input source. So for entire hard disk also, it will be giving 128-bit of hash. It will be acting like a signature. So once you are copying from a source hard disk to the destination hard disk, you will be taking the hash. How do you take the hash? These two disks are connected to the forensic tool, so on forensic tool panel, you can have direct buttons will be there. Just you can press on that, it will be showing this is a hash of this disk and that is a hash of this disk. Once it is properly copied, it will be showing both of that same. For example, you need not want to copy the entire one. For example, in this hard disk also, you want only half of the copy. So in that case also, you can take the half of the copy is copied, and only for half portion of that, you can take the hash value, and here also you can take the hash value. Otherwise, while copying, you stop in between and you try to take out the hash value for the source and destination. You will not be getting the similar hash value. So this is not a valid evidence. Did you understand my point? somebody. See, did you understand or not? There is a forensic tool. See, sometime if anyone is interested, you can come to JNTU, because when I was the head of the department, I established digital forensic lab under TechCube, where our students are working on these tools. Those are not proprietary or certified tools. Those are the academic versions. Means that look and feel wise, it looks similar to whatever the forensic people are using. Look and feel, even look wise also same. But actually the evidence whatever we are collecting from these particular tools will not be valid to submit in the court of law. But the cost of this is very less. It is something around like 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, something like this. But for understanding why we procured this is, we started in the year of 2018, I started MTech Cyber Forensics and Information Security specialization, which is meant for cyber forensics. See, all of them were placed in a very good forensic companies. See, it's not only government, we have a lot many very good forensic investigation agencies are there, PwC, E&Y, like that. So many companies are there. So they are placed in a very good firms. They have hands-on experience. Even the tools are there with us. So that's the reason I worked on that. That's the reason I can tell you. And I will show at the end of this slides, I can show some pictures how it looks like. And the mathematical algorithm that produces a unique value. MD5, it's a mathematical algorithm. I hope if at all anybody is gone through MD5 cryptography and network security subject, they might have understood like what is MD5 and SHA. MD message digest 5 algorithm, secure hash algorithm. Both are meant for taking the hash value out of the some source file. And can be performed on various types of data files itself. Only one single file you can take the hash or partition or total physical drive. The value can be used to demonstrate the integrity of your data. It means that the same, both the copies are same. Changes made to data will result in a different value. The same thing I told you. The same process can be used to demonstrate the image has not changed from time 1 to time n. For example, if you go to the court of law, you want to submit this evidence, you are not worked on the original evidence. So you need to show that in a court also, like this is the hash value for the source original evidence, and this is the hash value on the duplicate evidence. So both of that should be same. This is very common for any case. And examination, high level look at the file system representation of a data on the media. So file system, you should have a very good understanding of a file system, where the slack space is there, where the unallocated space is there, all that you should know very well. Verify the integrity of image by using this. Recover deleted files and folders. Determine keyword list, what you are searching for. And determine timelines. Time is making more and much important. What is the time zone settings of suspect system? What is the time frame is of importance? Graphical representation is very useful. See, most of the times, like I have seen some, I have not seen, I have gone through some real cases in a literature. The time settings, somebody is actually making a false allegation. That's called, in terms of forensics, is called alibi. Alibi means false allegation. It is, they submit that it was not by it was not done by me, by changing the time zone settings and all, but by using a forensic tools and all, one can actually caught by using this. And the next is examine directories, keyword searches, search for relevant evidence types and all that. So this is also very similar, but this is a model, basic model: identification phase, acquisition phase, authentication phase, analysis phase, presentation. Once you try to present, if you are not happy to some of the details, then you can come back, analyze, you can again authenticate. Likewise, you can do. This is a repetitive thing until you go through that phases. Okay, so still only 15 minutes are there. Just I'm going through. Is it okay for all of you? Are you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So identification, first step in the forensic process is what evidence is present, where it is stored, and how it is stored. Electronic stores can be personal computers, mobile phones, smartphones. See, all these things are repetition. Just I'll go through this once. See the preservation. See where to preserve. In forensic labs, if I don't think, if I have some pictures of CFSL when I visited. If time permits, I'll show some. There is a strong room. That room is with physical locks and logical locks. with this secret codes and all. So that is called I forgot what is that. That room is there, strong room is there. I'll show you. And this is very isolated one, secure, and preserve the state of physical and digital evidences. This includes preventing people from using the digital device, allowing the other electromagnetic devices to be used within the affected areas, and determine significance, reconstruct fragments of data, and draw conclusions based on the evidence. It may take several iterations of examination and analysis. With the same single examination and analysis, you cannot support the crime theory. It is so complex, you cannot do it. And documenting. A record of all visible data must be created, which helps in recreating the scene and reviewing it anytime. Okay, so documenting all visible data must be created. See, which helps in recreating the scene and reviewing it again at any time. So without something you are doing something which is not like a formal way, you are not documenting, it's like a fault on your side. Involves proper documentation of a crime scene along with the photographs, sketches, crime scene mapping, everything is recorded. And presentation. Summarize and provide explanation of conclusions. This should be written in a law person's terms using abstracted terminologies. It should be written in a law person terminology. It should not be written in an engineering person terminology, because we should make them to satisfy, and we should make this evidence to be accepted in a court of law. All abstracted terminology should reference the specific details. And then what is chain of custody? How many of you know the chain of custody? Did anybody heard about this? Should speak. Chain of custody చూడలేదండి మీరు? మీరు ఎప్పుడైనా it is out of the subject, but I'm asking one question. Did anyone saw hit movie? Hit. HIT.
Yes, ma'am.
If you see that, you will be seeing all these words: chain of custody, and this is evidence, homicide. They use all the terminology. Okay, so if just it's okay. I mean, they are doing all forensic labs, how it will be, and all that they are showing. It is somewhat interesting. Chain of custody is nothing but it is something like evidence. The team who are collecting the evidence actually is not the what happens is that the team who are collecting the evidence is not the people who are actually going and submitting in a court of law, right? So that's the reason what happens is that the chain of custody means the process of maintaining and documenting and handling of evidence. How you are handling, who is handled, who has taken the evidence at a right this particular moment, up to what time, with which person or which team of persons it is there, it will be recorded. That's called chain of custody document. So it involves keeping a detailed log showing who collected, handled, transferred, analyzed evidence during an investigation. If something was done at that moment of time, that person who is a case officer is responsible for that evidence which is corrected. Forensics investigator carefully studies the scene and take photographs and detailed notes for each piece of evidence found. So location of evidence, time and date of evidence recovery, description of item, condition of item, unique markings on them. So these are the various fields to be noted in a chain of custody. So if you see this, to maintain an accurate and complete record, complete record, these examples of chain of evidence elements must limit the number of people handling evidence. Always the evidence should not be handled by many and much more people. It should be handled by very skilled persons. Confirm all names, identification numbers, and dates on the chain of evidence documents. Seal the package. Double check markings before submissions. Obtain signed receipts upon transfer. Suppose I am a case officer one who is responsible to identify the evidence. I have identified. Now to whom I need to submit? I need to submit to the case officer who is examining this. So when I submitted, so I need to seal that, check markings before submission, take the receipt that they have received this. So all these things. So it is something like a, just you go through that. That's a chain of custody document. It looks like this. Okay, and where you can see from home to home. Sometimes, you know, one forensic lab will be doing up to some extent, and another organization it is moving. In that case, name name of the organization is also changing. What is the reason? What for you are changing? What is the model number? Who is the manufacturer? What is the hard drive? Description, manufacturer, who is the manufacturer, what is the model, and what is the serial number. All that you need to check. And next, disk copying techniques. What is disk copying techniques is, actually I told already all these things, but just copy and paste is just simple. I'm not reading it because of lack of time. So just it's a control C and control B, something like this, control B, something like this, means that just copy paste, it will not serve the purpose of a forensics. And the cloning, what is disk cloning is that it copies the original drive including all the information, open to duplicate and cloned drive is better than copying and pasting, since it reads all files. So it's a disk cloning, maybe mobile cloning you might have heard about, means that you are taking the copy of a mobile into some other mobile, or otherwise a disk cloning is the complete disk is copied into other one. But what disk imaging is entirely 100% perfect one, means that it takes each and every detail. It is something image, you see that image means it's like our image. See, if you stand in front of a mirror, we see the spaces, everything. See, our face is up to here, but still we are having the gaps in between the hairs, everything we are getting, means that everything, including unused spaces, including unallocated spaces, included slack spaces, everything will be copied. Whereas in the case of cloning, it will not be copying unallocated spaces. So that's the reason always all the forensic imagings, forensic people will be going for disk imaging, not for cloning. And there are types of forensic imaging: physical image, logical image, targeted image. What is physical imaging? Getting a physical image of a hard drive is the best kind of forensic image, as you get all the data on the drive. Apart from files, it also captures deleted space on the drive, even it has been recently formatted, deleted, and file fragments. It helps in cases where suspects are believed to have deleted or tampered with evidence, such as metadata is essential factor. But logical image of a hard drive obtains all active data. You can't see the deleted file space and file fragments. Means that physical means it's something like you are imaging, and logical means you will be actually taking only the active data. You will not be seeing the deleted data, spaces, and fragments. But targeted image, there are times when you know exactly what files or documents you need for your case. You know only the selected, the target image you will be collecting. So that is called targeted forensic image. Decreases the cost and labor, since a much smaller data set requires gathering and analysis. So there are some different methods for collecting forensic images: dead box imaging, live imaging, remote acquisition. Dead box imaging means turn off the device safely, remove storage media, connect it to forensic workstation via write blockers. I told you, there is a forensic toolkits FTK with write blocker you will be connecting, and it is a like it's like a persistent data. It is not a volatile, it's a non-volatile, something like hard disk copying. Some live imaging from the target device. Be cautious. Run live forensic imaging softwares such as Encase Forensic Imager, FTK Imager Lite, etc. also will be used as a live imaging. Means that whatever the present state is there, everything will be stored. Just a minute. Are you able to understand? Just I'm searching for that actually forensic this thing to show you. It is quite interesting. I want to show you, that's one. Are you able to follow me? No answer. Nobody? Sandhya?
Yes, madam.
What about others participants?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, yeah,
Following, ma'am.
just to give me a minute, I'm searching for that pics so that I forgot actually to copy before itself. So that is called exhibit storeroom. I'm coming. Sandhya, I've sent to you, possible after this session, just you present it. I sent to your WhatsApp.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah. So this is the third one is called remote acquisition. Encase endpoint investor. This is remote data, how to get the acquisition. And the next is, these are the some set of write blockers, devices used in dead box imaging. These are software write blockers, disable USB mount key in registry, encase fast block SE and all that. See, this is hardware. See, the first one is called as a hardware write blocker, where actually this is the hard disk and this is the write blocker. Directly connecting this hard disk to this forensic tool, you will be connecting with the write blocker. Okay. So the next is TD3 forensic imager will be like this. So on the network, you can get the evidence. The evidence output is here, from where on the internet you will be connecting this to this particular server is catching. So this is called TD3 forensic imager. Live imaging using forensic boot CD is Kali Linux also will be able to do up to some extent, but these particular Kali Linux tools will not be able to show in case of a forensic thing. Just 2 minutes, Sandhya, I am going to finish, please. A live imaging using FTK Imager. So FTK Imager is coming with the software also. So this is how actually the menu will be looking like. And these are the some set of forensic tools. The description is given over here. Disk imaging can be done with autopsy, X-Phase forensics. Network forensics can be done with Wireshark. Likewise, UFED for PC, memory forensics. See, this volatility tool is a open source tool which you can actually try over there. You can try it. So it is, most of the tools are like open source tools are there, software tools. You can actually try over there, but actually hardware tools will be used in a forensic labs. And this is the forensics imaging tools. See, this is what I'm telling. Falcon, LogicCube is a company, Falcon. So this is where you can see, this is a screen. It will be looking like the same similar tool is there with us. This is a Tabula is another one. This will do the imaging. Falcon is for imaging. This is the hard disk which is connected here, and the other hard disk is secondary one is connected over here. So you will be taking the here there are options which is not clearly visible on the screen, where you can take out the hash values by either by using MD5 or by using SHA algorithm. It will be showing both the disks are having the same hash to have the authenticity. So the next is write block kit. See, while scan digital devices directly taking into laptop forensic workstation, you will be using a write blocker here. And what is the need for forensics? To ensure the integrity of a digital systems, to focus on response to high-tech offenses. Digital forensics has been efficiently used to track down the terrorists from various parts of the world, to produce evidence in the court of law. See, nowadays, evidence to be submitted in a court of law, even in a physical cases, the digital forensics plays a important role. And what are the benefits? To protect from and solve cases, something like theft of intellectual property, financial frauds. And benefits is hacker system penetration is being done, vulnerabilities of the systems, taking advantage vulnerabilities of the system, rootkits, sniffers, such as tools are used. A distribution and execution of viruses and worms. And applications where it is being used is financial fraud detection can be done with a digital forensics, criminal prosecution is going to be done. And next is child pornography is a very burning problem which can be actually investigated by using digital forensics, civil litigations, corporate security policy and all that. And the very, very important thing is that what are the challenges faced by the digital forensics is to increase of pieces and internet access has made the exchange of information quick and inexpensive. The large amount of storage space available to suspects. So the other important thing is that, coming to this in short, because I work with a digital forensic people, sometimes I go, because we have MOE with forensic departments and all, they have some set of problems. Being you are a faculty, you can take up some of the problems as a research problems. The one thing is that what for they are facing challenges, suppose the hard disk is okay, but actually if they want to retrieve the data from the mobile phones, see, the mobile phones is entirely, it's a dependency is more something like on a space or on the operating system. Say for example, Apple OS is there, iOS. Okay, so the iOS, what happens is that version from one version to another version, it is not crackable. So what happens? Suppose iOS version 14 or otherwise, what do you say, that 14 version of iOS, to break that mobile phone data, or otherwise to crack and to get that mobile data, you have some forensic tool like mobile forensic tool. The same tool, after 2 months, the new version is coming, this tool will not work for that. And at the same time, the Android phone mobile forensic tools with which mobile Android phone is data is going to be retrieved will not work for the iOS. So likewise, the mobile phones is operating system dependent, and also the space dependent, and the security dependent. All that will be different. Because of that, the market, the commercial products are coming on the, based on the operating system. So what they are facing is that they want a universal mobile forensic tool, whatever may be the version, whatever may be the model, whatever may be the operating system, they could be able to retrieve the data. So this is one of the very prominent problem. If at all any one of you can catch it as a research problem, you can take it up. And likewise, most of the times the mobile phones or hard disks or computers are coming to the labs, they need to crack the passwords. Password cracking tools also so expensive. It is also something like this. It is version dependent, OS dependent, and all that, processor dependent. They are asking for universal password cracking tools. So large amount of storage space available. Likewise, they have some certain problems in a drone forensics. So there are so much of scope in a forensic thing where you can work it off. Skills required for the digital forensic is application of programming and computer related. So basically, you can go through all these things. Basically, what I could say is that you should be a very good, should have a very good analytical thinking, and also you should have a very broad understanding of computer science, something like operating system, file system, cryptography, steganography, all that. If you have a very good analytical skills and mathematical skills, definitely one will become a very good forensic analyst. So these are the some of the tools like Backtrack, 5R3, Kali Linux and all. Key job roles of digital forensic investigator, it is given over here. Just you can go through this. Cyber forensic investigator, forensic analyst, for digital forensic analyst, likewise. And these are the issues. Lack of certification for tools. Most of the tools may be working good, but the getting certification is very difficult. Lack of standards, lack of certifications for professionals. See how many professionals are having certification as a forensic exam, certified forensic examiners. Very few. If you make your students to do this for certifications and forensic examination, definitely they have a very good job scope. Lack of understanding by judiciary. See, we talk about, but we are not completely good enough in a judiciary. We should have a very good knowledge in that. Lack of curriculum accreditation and rapid changes in technology, immature scientific discipline. All these are the careers, and some of the other careers, job functions, professional opportunities. This is the summary. So what we understand with my what I have gone through with my presentation means, maybe I was so hurry, I'm so ambitious, I gave so much of so many slides, but I hope at least you have understood up to some extent. It is like at least you are comfortable to hear this type of words, right? That's what I am actually looking after. Now I request Sandhya, please just show that pictures.
One second.
Just because second person is maybe waiting, no? I think it's not good. I take a minute. And meanwhile, if at all anyone is having doubts, please speak about your doubts or your anything, discussion, anything. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There are so many thank yous are floating in a chat box. Thank you so much. Really, I'm very happy to receive your thanks. See, meanwhile, I want to tell you the Center of Excellence in Cybersecurity we have in our JNTU. If at all at any time, if you are want to come and visit, you're always come and visit. We are actually working for a very good goals and all. Very recently, today itself, we are so much busy. Today morning, we established SOC Center. Our MTech students, with the help of our MTech students, we could help simulate a SOC Center, Security Operations Center, which is an upcoming area where, yeah, just you can maximize. They can see the boards and all. Is it?
I'm checking now.
Yeah, please. It's not maybe not coming.
No.
It's a WhatsApp. Oh.
It's
Okay, you can see that board documentation, documents division, and digital forensic division. That is one division. Just next. Yeah. See, this is CFSL Hyderabad, Central Forensic Science Laboratory, where they have all these things, question and digital, what is that? Digital forensic divisions, forensic psychology division, chemistry, narcotics, ballistic, forensic physics. Likewise, they have all, so many things are there. So many divisions. CFSL is central forensic, not the cyber forensics. Central forensic lab, where you will be having all these types of labs. How to get permission to go and see the CFSL? Just you can send a mail to us. We will arrange a visit to there. Next. So that is digital forensic division. Yeah. My mail ID, yeah, you can take out COE cybersecurity. I'll type it here otherwise. COE cybersecurity @jntuh.ac.in. Okay, please, next. That's a digital forensic division. And this is forensic ballistic division. Ballistics is that shooting at, see there, the identification of firearms, shooter identification, identification of bullet holes. They take out the distances, everything. Next. It's so interesting if you visit. Next. Yeah, this is actually, what is this? Exhibit storage room. This is the strong room where you will be having, yeah, exhibit storage room. where you will be having some digital locks and physical locks, everything. No one should enter into that. All the evidences which they are going to send to the court of law, they'll be keeping in this. Next. He is assistant director, Mr. Back. Mr. Krishna Garu. He is the person actually helped us a lot in establishment of Center of Excellence Cyber Security and also Digital Forensic Lab. So this is also called as National Cyber Forensic Laboratory. Next. There is a mobile forensic. Yeah, I think it's a digital storage media examination unit. All that units are completely prohibited. We cannot go inside until unless we have proper permissions. But it is so interesting. You can find lot many things. You can make your students also be employable with these skills, because there is a lot of demand for forensic analysts in the country, even in the abroad, because there are, all of you know, so many crimes are happening. There is no those many persons to actually do the forensic investigation. Okay, I think it's finished. Thank you so much for your very patience listening for a long time. And thank you so much for the opportunity is given to me, to the principal of the college, and your Sandhya, my colleague, previous colleague, because I worked here in very long back. It's a very happy occasion to meet you all. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Feel free to give the feedback also. I'm waiting for your feedback always as a teacher. Thank you so much. Thank you, one and all, because the next resource person may be waiting. And still, if you have any doubts, anything clarifications, you can send a mail to coecybersecurity@j2h.ac. Thank you.
One second, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the knowledge
ma'am.
on cyber forensics, including the activities of forensics, the life cycle, the phases, and all the introduction part of cyber forensics tools with visualizations. It is very informative.
Is it any repetition, Sandhya?
No, ma'am. No.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, at least.
And we are very much delighted with your wonderful lecture. That is helps for all the research scholars who are all joined here as the participants. And the applications and challenges, it is also very expressive, ma'am. And on behalf of our Bojred Engineering College, once again, we are very thankful to you. And for having this session, we are very much thankful.
Thank you, one and all.
And one more thing, ma'am, that last picture, NCFL, it's very good. That's the demonstrations and photos you explained. So definitely we will take your permission with your reference.
No, it's something like we feel excited once we go there. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. Our students, we will take the industrial trip. So you give the reference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Sir, you will speak anything, sir? Daika, sir.
Thank you, madam. Sridevi, madam, thank you for the wonderful session.
Dayakar sir is also here. Okay, fine. How are you, sir? Everyone fine? Hope.
Fine, madam. Thank you very much, madam, for the session. It was excellent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Dear participants, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Please fill it. And within a couple of seconds, the next session will start.